Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's episode, after many months away on business trips, CEO Tuan has finally returned to the farm and brought a huge surprise for Hana. He gave her 500 million VND to rebuild her house, helping her escape a life of hardship and start a better new beginning. Hana was deeply emotional because, from childhood until now, she has never once held such a large amount of money in her hands. CEO Tuan's sincere care and kindness moved her to tears, marking a meaningful turning point in her life. How will the new house change Hana's life? And how will her relationship with CEO Tuan develop in the future? Let's continue following the next developments in this story together. If you enjoy emotional, romantic, and heart-touching stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next episodes. Turn on the notification bell to be the first to update our latest stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. After many long months of working far away, CEO Tuan finally returned to the quiet countryside where Hana had been waiting. The road leading to her small farm was still the same, narrow, dusty, and lined with rows of green trees swaying gently in the wind. As his car slowly approached the familiar place, Tuan felt a strange mix of emotions rising in his chest. There was exhaustion from endless days of work, but beneath it was something warmer, something he had been looking forward to ever since he left, seeing Hana again. The car came to a stop in front of her modest house, a simple structure that had clearly weathered many years of hardship. The tin roof was faded and dotted with rust, and parts of the wooden walls looked worn from sun and rain. Yet, despite its fragile appearance, the house held a quiet sense of warmth, as if it carried countless memories of resilience and hope. Before Tuan could even step out of the car, the wooden door suddenly opened, and Hana rushed outside. Her eyes widened the moment she saw him. For a second, she froze, as if she couldn't believe he was really standing there. Then, almost instinctively, she took a few quick steps forward, her expression shifting from surprise to overwhelming relief. There was no need for words in that moment. The way she looked at him, soft, trembling, and filled with unspoken emotions, said everything she had kept inside during the long days he was gone. Tuan stepped out of the car, closing the door behind him. His face showed clear signs of fatigue, but when his eyes met Hana's, that tiredness seemed to fade away. A gentle smile appeared on his lips, the kind that carried both comfort and affection. He didn't rush toward her, nor did he try to explain anything. Instead, he simply stood there for a moment, taking in the sight of her as safe, familiar, and exactly as he remembered. The air between them felt still, almost sacred. Even the sounds of the countryside, the distant rustling of leaves, the soft chirping of birds, seemed to quiet down, as if giving space to their reunion. Hana clasped her hands together, trying to steady herself. Her heart was beating faster than usual, not just because he had returned, but because his presence brought back a sense of security she had been missing. Without saying a word, Tuan finally turned toward the back of his car and walked to the trunk. Hana watched him closely, curiosity beginning to replace her initial shock. She didn't know what he had brought back from his long journey, but something in the way he moved, calm, deliberate, and slightly mysterious, made her feel that this moment was more important than it seemed. As he opened the trunk, the faint sound echoed in the quiet space. Tuan reached inside and carefully took out a large bag. He held it firmly in his hands, then paused for a brief second before turning back to face Hana. His expression softened once again, but this time, there was a deeper meaning behind it, something thoughtful, something he had clearly prepared with intention. Hana stood there, her eyes fixed on the bag, her breath unconsciously slowing. She could feel it, whatever was about to happen next was not ordinary. And in that quiet, suspended moment, the world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them and a feeling that something life-changing was about to unfold. Tuan slowly walked toward Hana, holding the large bag with both hands as if it carried something far more important than its appearance suggested. The atmosphere between them had shifted completely from the quiet warmth of reunion to a deeper sense of anticipation. Hana's eyes followed every step he took, her heart beating faster with each second. She could tell from his expression that this was not just an ordinary gift. It was something meaningful, something life-changing. When he finally stood in front of her, Tuan didn't immediately speak. Instead, he looked at Hana for a brief moment, as if gathering his thoughts. His gaze was calm but firm, carrying a sense of responsibility and care that he had clearly been holding on to for a long time. Hana felt slightly nervous under his look, her fingers unconsciously gripping the edge of her shirt. She had never seen him this serious before. At last, Tuan broke the silence. In a steady, gentle voice, he said, "I've been thinking about your future for a long time." Hana blinked in surprise, unsure of what he meant. Before she could ask anything, he carefully placed the bag into her hands. It was heavier than she expected, making her stumble slightly as she held it. Confused, she looked up at him, waiting for an explanation. Tuan gave her a soft nod. "Open it," he said quietly. Hana hesitated for a moment. Her hands trembled slightly as she slowly unzipped the bag. The sound of the zipper breaking the silence felt unusually loud in her ears. When she finally opened it, her eyes widened in complete shock. Inside the bag was a neatly arranged stack of money, 500 million VND, carefully organized and wrapped. For a moment, she thought she was seeing things. She blinked several times, trying to process what was in front of her. Her breath caught in her throat. She had never in her entire life held such a large amount of money. Growing up, every coin mattered, every small expense had to be carefully considered. The idea of seeing this much money all at once felt almost unreal to her. Her hands began to shake uncontrollably, and she instinctively took a step back, overwhelmed by disbelief and emotion. "CEO Tuan," she stammered, her voice barely audible. This is too much." But Tuan gently shook his head. "It's not too much if it gives you a better life," he replied calmly. His tone was firm but kind, leaving no room for argument. "You've lived in that old house for too long. It's time for you to have something safe, something proper." Hana's eyes filled with tears almost immediately. She looked down at the money again, then back at him, as if trying to understand why he would do something so big for her. Emotion overwhelmed her completely. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She felt a mixture of gratitude, shock, and disbelief all at once, making it impossible to speak clearly. Tuan watched her quietly, giving her the space to process everything. He knew this moment was overwhelming for her, but he also knew it was necessary. The decision had not been made lightly. It came from months of thinking, of watching her struggle silently, of wanting to change her life in a meaningful way. And now, finally, that intention had taken form in front of her eyes. Hana stood there, holding the bag tightly, as if afraid it might disappear. Her heart was racing, and her mind was still struggling to accept the reality of what she was holding. But deep inside, she knew one thing for certain: her life had just changed forever. Hana stood frozen for a few seconds, still holding the bag tightly in her hands. The weight of the money felt real, but her mind was still struggling to accept what had just happened. Her eyes slowly filled with tears as emotions she had kept buried for so long began to surface. She had always lived carefully, counting every small expense, accepting hardship as part of her life. But now, standing in front of CEO Tuan with $500 million VND in her hands, everything felt unreal, like a dream she was afraid to wake up from. Her lips trembled as she finally lowered her head. The silence between them grew heavier, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was filled with understanding, care, and something deeper that neither of them needed to say out loud. Hana's shoulders shook slightly as tears began to fall freely. She tried to hold them back, but she couldn't. The overwhelming kindness she had just received broke through every layer of strength she had built over the years. I don't know what to say, she whispered, her voice breaking. From when I was a child until now, I have never held so much money in my hands. I never imagined something like this would happen to me. Her words came slowly, mixed with emotion and disbelief. She looked down at the bag again, as if still trying to confirm it was real. The reality of it made her heart ache, not from sadness, but from gratitude so deep it was almost painful. Tuan stepped closer, his expression softening even more. He didn't interrupt her. Instead, he waited patiently, letting her emotions flow naturally. When she finally finished speaking, he gently placed a hand on her shoulder. The gesture was light, but it carried a strong sense of reassurance. You don't have to carry everything alone anymore, he said quietly. His voice was calm, steady, and sincere. I didn't give you this just as money. I want you to have a place where you can live safely, without worry. A real home. Hana looked up at him through tear-filled eyes. For a moment, she couldn't meet his gaze directly, overwhelmed by the sincerity she saw in him. No one had ever done something like this for her before, not with such quiet certainty, and not without expecting anything in return. Her heart tightened as she tried to understand how someone could care so deeply for her situation. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, taking a shaky breath. I will never forget this. Never, she said softly. I will use it carefully. I will build a house, and I will live better. Tuan gave a small, gentle nod. That's all I ask, he replied. A quiet breeze passed through the yard, moving softly between them, as if carrying away the tension and leaving only warmth behind. Hana still held the bag tightly, but now her grip was no longer from shock. It was from responsibility, hope, and a new sense of direction. For the first time in her life, she felt like the future was not something to fear, but something she could finally build. Standing there in front of the old house she had lived in for so long, Hana realized that this moment marked a turning point. It wasn't just about money. It was about being seen, being cared for, and being given a chance to start again. And in that quiet countryside afternoon, everything began to change.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Hana Daily Vlog. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Nội dung câu chuyện hôm nay của chúng ta thì đã kể về một tình huống rất là vô cùng hấp dẫn và thú vị. Đó chính là việc CEO Tuấn, việc chàng trai tốt bụng Tuấn đã đi làm ăn xa sau nhiều tháng. Bây giờ Tuấn đã trở về nhà và đã đi tìm gặp Hana. Biết hoàn cảnh của Hana vẫn rất là khó khăn, Tuấn đã quyết định tặng Hana số tiền rất là lớn là 500 triệu đồng để Hana có thể xây dựng căn nhà và làm lại cuộc đời. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện CEO Tuấn và Hana sẽ được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn hãy đón xem nha.